we have seen the numbers. We know the data. For a very long time, we have been articulating this problem, and this problem seems to be growing a lot faster than we can handle. Right now, we are suffering deeply as a society, as a community, and on the world stage with what we call a boy crisis, the problem with our masculine imperative, the development of our males. And we have been speaking about it in the corridors, but it's difficult to bring it out. And we tend to diagnose the problem with a shallow type of thinking. So today, what we are going to do, I am going to try to delve deep into the problem to find out what is causing this male crisis. And coming on the back burners of reading the book, The Boy Crisis by this author, Dr. Farrell, and the book Reaching Boys, Teaching Boys, and also Dads Create Sons. So this very interesting book, and also the book Miles Monroe, The Fatherhood Principle. And I've been looking at this problem for a little while now, and what I have understood is that we live in a society where the ideal is constantly under attack. And the main sex that suffers when the ideal is under attack is the males, because males need an ideal in order to develop. And when we talk about ideal, what you might be asking, what is it that we're talking about? And it goes on the backdrop of what Plato called forms. Back then during society, we always had a form of how things should be, how the family should be, how the individual should be, how the society should run. We always had a form, and Plato said in some sense that if you know what the form of something is, we know what the necessary steps that we take to get to achieving that form. And that's what the vision does for an individual. Most specifically, I'm going to zone in on the males. That's what a goal does for the males. That's what purpose would do for a male. That's why Miles Monroe, Fatherhood Principle book, he said males cannot live without purpose. And also the male crisis, the boy crisis book by Dr. Farrell, he actually said that we have a purpose void. So the ideal that is being under attack by society and the societal norms and laws is attacking the ideal, trying to make space, trying to include, trying to bring the principles of inclusion to everyone. It's causing a direct attack on how the males function. And that's why our males are falling for the trap. So I'm going to walk you through that trend of thinking. Thank you very much for listening, and good day, everyone. We have even more. I read this book, The History of St. Lucia, an interesting book. And what I was trying to understand my history as a St. Lucia. And that's one of the best written works that we have about the history of St. Lucia. And in this book, early in the pages, I think it's about page 9 or 10, and they were speaking about the initiation ritual that we partake in before as a society. I think it was done by both the Amerindians and the Caribs at the time. And what it's explained was that the males, the sons, used to be taken up by the father, in some sense, the parent, and they used to take him for a series of tests. And after you take him for a series of tests, he used to go and live with in the male cabe. They used to go and live, that's what they call cabe at the time. They actually wrote that in there. We went to live with the older men, the elders in the houses. So we used to take the males away from the mother and take them for a series of tests to see whether or not he's strong. And he used to be initiated into the male household to be, and then they would give him the different tasks that he have to do. Also, I read another book, The Power of Stories by Joseph Campbell, and one of the things that he said, the Aborigines had that same initiation process, and it was interesting to see that we had that initiation process in the history of St. Lucia, and all the way in Australia, there was something similar to that happening, a cross-culture connection. So that means an initiation process must be on the backdrop of an aim. You must be aiming towards something for you to initiate somebody into something. So what I'm trying to say, it's been proven for a very long time that human beings always look at the world through the lens of having an ideal, working towards the future, working towards something that they are not in the current moment. So it happened in our history of St. Lucia, and it happened with the Aborigines in Australia, that they taught their males to work towards an aim, to work towards being an ideal person. And now that we're losing that working towards an ideal, it's only fair to say this is one of the reasons why our males are suffering with a problem of if they are of an identity crisis. They don't know who they are, they don't know where they go, and they don't know what they're about, and it's built into the fabric of how things are organized now. So in this video, I will be speaking about it is proven culturally that males need an ideal in the developmental process, in the development process. And I teach boys, and I've practiced that. I've created situations where I outlined ideals across time, and you could see how having an ideal is important for the male to work towards. So one way that can be proven one day, and that's just my theory at this point, and it's just theories of other persons who have been looking at the problem for a very long time. And one way you can prove that is to see what males are interested in. And the book Reaching Boys and Teaching Boys, it says that teaching males it's important to put in games when you are teaching boys, and teaching boys is helping boys to develop. You help boys to develop so that they could become men. Again, here comes the ideal, and men have a specific roles to play in society. But the research has shown that teaching males is highly using games to teach males is highly effective, and they show you across many countries where games are very important to males. So we can go into the meta narrative of games, and you would see why a game is interesting to males. And anytime you are teaching males with games, you tend to get that kind of reaction. Number one, all games, not just one specific game. Let's look at all games. So you would call that the meta narrative of games. And what all games have in common? Number one, they have an aim. They have an aim. Whether you play in basketball, you have to score baskets, points. Whether you play in football, you have to score goals. Whether you run in track and field, you have to run. You have to reach to the finishing line. Whether you play in tennis, you get points. All games, there's a specific aim that all games intending towards. Number two, all games have an area in which they are played. All games where you have a tennis court, you have a basketball court, you have a cricket field, you have a volleyball court. All games, there's a set area where these games are played. And number three, you have the rules. The rules it's very close to what the game is, because without the rules of the game, you would not know what to do. And the rules of the game almost signifies morality in life, what you should do and what you shouldn't do in order for you to compete. And that's important to note. It's almost like the game and the rules are the same thing. The rules of the game is the game in some sense. So boys follow the rules of a game very well, and I question myself. So they follow the rules of the game when they play football, when they play, and to some degree, and to a greater extent. And when they come out in society, they don't follow the rules of society. Why? And again, all games, you can see that all games, there is an opponent. They're working towards, they're playing against something. And again, track, they might be running against persons, they might be running against the time. But there is an adversary that they're working, that they are playing against. But in order for them to work properly against that adversary, there must be a level of cooperation. So the best cooperative team would be able to overcome the adversary. That's number three. And so all games have those structures, and there are more structures to the games. All games have those structures, and you'll find that males interested in play, interested in games, which was something that was discovered by Piaget in some sense, how play is important. Males are interested in play, are interested in games, organized games, because they have a biological tendency to work towards an aim. They work towards an aim. And if you want to get a male to do something, specify an aim, give him the rules give him the rules to get to the aim, and give him the step-by-step process and watch him work. So that means an ideal is what the aim is. The aim, the idea, and that's why males are so attracted to the best footballer. So the person that could score the most goals. You know, we have the Messis, we have the Ronaldos, to where the young boys speak about them. You know, they can hit that target, they can achieve that aim. They're best at playing the game. So males emulate persons who are best at achieving that aim, hitting the target, because they have that interest in hitting the target. They have that biological reality in wanting to work towards a target. So they will look at somebody that's working towards that target, and they will say, "Oh wow, he can do this very well." You can see he hits the target very well in his field, in his sport. So why not be like it? So we're going to go to the second point, and we're going to close on that point by recapping that games specify aims. Games have ideals. Playing a game shows that ideals are very important. You have an ideal, the person that could score the best goal. That's an ideal. Males work towards that, and it's proven scientifically that teaching males and using games to teach males is more effective than using the other strategies that would most likely work for females majority of the time. So on the backdrop of that, the next point that I want to look at that prove that males need an ideal to develop, males need an ideal to develop, is that it was it is something that is said by a great author. He said the instinct to imitate comes from the desire to appreciate. And like I was saying, based on sports, that we have a biological instinct to imitate, and that biological instinct to imitate comes from the appreciation, the desire to appreciate what somebody is doing. And it was Confucius who said, if I am walking with two other men, each of them will serve as my teacher. I will pick out the good points of the one and imitate them, and the bad points of the other and correct them in myself. So when you appreciate someone, we as males, we appreciate persons who have the ability to hit aims, we have the ability to hit targets. And that in itself leads me to point three. And it was Albert Bandura's social learning theory, educational psychologist. His social learning theory is built on observation and modeling, and that is called vicarious learning. We learn through seeing, and when I say we, are going to generalize as human beings, but more towards males in some sense. We learn through modeling and observation. And he had a research where he had the Bobo doll research in some sense, where he placed a doll in the room. He puts a punching bag or doll in some sense in the room. And he had a child playing in that room, and the child was playing with the Bobo doll less violently. And when he placed an adult male in the room, and the adult male used to beat the Bobo doll senselessly, when the male left the room, the child ended up playing with the Bobo doll the same way. So he saw a pattern in observation that we are imitative creatures, for lack of a better word. And also a writer and a writer and civil rights activist who's best known for his autobiographical novels and plays that center on race, politics, and sexuality. James Baldwin went on that same tangent, and when he said, children have never been very good at listening to the elders, but they have never failed to imitate them. So imitation comes from the fact that there is an ideal. If you are imitating something, you are imitating the ideal version of that thing. You are looking at something that you would like to be. And that's an instinct that's within us. And except, for example, for more specifically males, we need an ideal so that we can have an aim and work towards that aim. And that's where the fatherhood principle comes in. Because your first, just like Yuri Bronfenben, the ecological theory says, your first interaction with somebody that you might appreciate or want to imitate is your father in the home, the relationship. And if you have a father that have good values and you are able to imitate that values, you are able to work towards imitating those values, you stand a better chance at practicing how to play that male and father role. But if the father principle is not present in the home, the male is left in the wilderness in some sense. He doesn't know, he doesn't have anything to imitate. So sometimes he might imitate his mother, but that doesn't work to his biological reality. He needs that ideal version of himself that he could see and imagine that one day he is going to become that, and he have to sacrifice his present moment to try to reach to that aim. And that's why a father in the home is important. A father in the home is important because males need an ideal in order to develop. We need an ideal in order to develop. And if you do not have a father in the home and you have a father in heaven, so to speak, that's another ideal to imitate. And that's what the role Christ was meant to play for us, to try to imitate that perfect male. And that's why it's a male, because the cross-culturally and historically, we understand that males work towards an ideal greater, have a more greater impact on our psyche. That's why they made Christ a male, because they understand males need that Y. That's why we have an XY chromosome. We need that Y. We need somebody to look up to work towards. But a lot of persons that I speak to, males in some sense, they don't have that ideal that they want to work towards. And the majority of the ideals that are highlighted and made to be viewed as something positive are the ideals that, in some sense, not to build and tilt towards that positive principle that is required for social development and continuation of civilization across time. And that's something that we have to think about. Our males need proper ideals. Our males need persons to look up to. Our males need persons to understand. This is what the form of a man. And we're blurring the line between the ideal right now, and it's difficult to get our males in line. And this is why they are falling through the cracks on every metric of measurement: education, health, financial. And this is a problem that is worth addressing. And we are going to address the problem to the degree that we can. And that's my short theory on this problem. We've been speaking about the male crisis for a very long time, the lack of the fatherhood, the lack of the father in the home. But these two things can correlate, because the male to grow up without having that valuable ideal in their life that they could look at and pursue after. Majority of the time tend to be disappointed with what they have. And sometimes they have the male in the house, but the male doesn't have the consciousness of the father. As long as the consciousness of the father is present, the instinct to imitate would be initiated, because it would be initiated from the desire to appreciate. And this I will leave with you for now. Thank you for listening.